All right, lovely. Welcome everyone. My name is Jesse. I'm the program manager here at Point A. We are here today with Judy from Wellesley Institute to talk about bike lanes as a health equity issue. So welcome Judy for that. But before we get started, I just want to actually throw in some poll questions here, just to understand, how do you folks usually commute? What do you guys want to learn, and all this sort of stuff. So go ahead and get that going. And while that poll question's about to launch and get going, let me just quickly explain. If this is your first time here, welcome to SmartCommute. Let me explain what we do and why are we all here. So basically, SmartCommute is an initiative here in Ontario where we offer community services at workplaces to empower possibilities for how Ontarians commute. And so you can check our website to see much more information about what it is. But really, the main focuses of what we do is try to promote multimodal transportation, improving, commuter quality of life and access, and reducing negative health and environmental impacts such as air pollution. And so the work that we do spreads all across different regions in Toronto, York Region, Hamilton, Durham, Halton municipalities, so Oakville, Burlington, Halton Hills, and Milton, London, Bruce County, and Greater Sudbury. And so a lot of different municipalities are supporting this initiative. And so if you're in one of these regions, welcome, and I'm so glad you're here with us. So June is Bike Month, so we're kind of getting close to the tail end, and it's a hot day today, but we do encourage people to go out there, go cycle if you can. And so we have plenty of webinars that we've already done already. So if you go to smartcommute.ca, you can check out all the recordings that we've had from many different guest speakers, such as Cycle Toronto, Toronto Metropolitan University, and today with Wellesley Institute. And so I encourage everyone to stay until the end of this webinar, because in all of our webinars that we do offer a $20 gift card prize for one attendee, one lucky winner who stays till the end. So please stay and listen to Judy's insights. So that's that. And then on top of that too, if you go to smartcommute.ca and you log your cycling trips for the month of June, we will do these random prize draws, $50 gift card prize draws. So yeah, go out there. Great, it's a great incentive for you to go out and exercise and have fun. And so without further ado, let me go ahead and close the poll. So thank you all who's responded. And without further ado, Judy, please take it away.
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks for everyone for being here. It's a pleasure to be here today and talk to you about bike lanes as a health equity issue. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to set up my screen. And Jesse, I think it's probably showing well. If I can get any thumbs up to see that it's showing well, it's showing the way we want to be showing it. Okay, thank you very much. So the news notifications started coming on my phone in late September last year. The provincial government was considering tabling legislation that would restrict the construction of new bike lanes on municipal streets when they would take out an existing lane of traffic. And when that legislation was introduced on October 21st last year, it was entitled the Reducing Gridlock, Saving You Time Act. In a separate announcement, a few days later, the government announced it planned to remove existing bike lanes on major streets in downtown Toronto, so Bloor Street, Yonge Street and University Avenue. And the argument of the legislation is bike lanes cause congestion. So, as a Torontonian who loves to cycle, I cycle to work 7 kilometers each way, even today. I cycle to play, to exercise, and do errands. This proposed legislation was personally discouraging. I've always cycled, but the time I spend on my bike and the kilometers I cover increased dramatically during the COVID lockdown when bike lanes were expanded across the city. And as someone with European roots, I've spent a lot of time cycling in very cycle-friendly Holland. And I even did cycling research for a month in Sweden in my earlier days. I also knew that the argument that bike lanes cause congestion does not align with the growing international body of evidence showing cycling infrastructure does not slow vehicle traffic. And if and where it does, it's only marginal. But as the Director of Communications and Partnerships at Wellesley Institute, my mind, it also went to the health and the health equity implications of this legislation. So I wrote a blog about it for the Wellesley Institute website, and that blog opened up today's webinar opportunity. If you're here today, I'm assuming it's because you care about bike lanes, and I hope to give you information to help you in your understanding and advocacy for robust cycling infrastructure, touching on both my journey as a cyclist and my knowledge as a result of being a director at Wellesley Institute. So what I'll cover, I'm going to talk a little bit about Wellesley Institute, talk a bit about bike lanes and health, a bit about bike lanes and health equity, and then I'm going to wrap it up at the end. So about Wellesley Institute, we're a think tank, there's our photo, in downtown Toronto, and we work to create healthier, fairer lives for all those who call the Greater Toronto area home, by driving change on the social determinants of health. So we do this by undertaking applied research, recommending policy solutions, and mobilizing knowledge. So webinars such as this is occasionally the kind of thing that we will do. So the previous slide referenced the social determinants of health. The social determinants of health are the conditions in which we're born, in which we grow, what we work, live, and age, as well as the wider set of forces and systems shaping the conditions of our daily life. The economic systems we live in, the social policies around us, and the political systems. So broadly, essentially, the social determinants of health are those things about your life that you cannot individually directly control. So that's race, that's gender, the childhood experiences you have growing up, income. It's also your access to health services, and it's the environment and then the environmental factors that surround you. Studies show that the social determinants of health account for up to 85% of health outcomes. Yes, it's doctors, it's hospitals, but 85% of our health outcomes are related to the social determinants of health. So addressing them appropriately is fundamental to improving health and to improving health and long-standing and reducing long-standing inequities in health. So Wellesley's core belief, everyone should have the opportunity to reach their full health potential. We, as a think tank, as an institute, we deal with the big issues to help people thrive. So that's Wellesley Institute. Let's talk about bike lanes and health. So the data on safety is crystal clear. Safe cycling infrastructure reduces collisions, injuries, and death. Research shows adding a protected bike lane reduces collisions and injuries by up to 50%. And Ontario government documents themselves, produced last year, suggest that removing the protected bike lanes on Bloor-Yonge Avenue will result in a 54% increase in collisions. But beyond safety, there's emerging broad health issues that should be considered. Toronto, the GTA, Ontario, Canada, the world, we're facing two major health concerns that will continue to grow in importance in coming years. It's the impact of sedentary lifestyles, and it's the impact of climate change on health. Active transportation is a powerful approach to dealing with both. So cycling is healthy for individuals. Regular physical activity protects against chronic conditions like diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, whereas sedentary behavior increases the risk of many of these same chronic diseases and of premature death. Physical activity is also good for mental health, depression and anxiety, but also body image and self-concept. At the macro level, cycling is healthy for the environment. The transportation sector in Canada is responsible for 23% of greenhouse gases, and emissions are going up. There's 27% more vehicles on the road, most notably trucks now, than there were 20 years ago. And there's also the factor of our growing population and lower gas prices. There's recent drops to provincial taxes and carbon taxes affecting gas prices. And this is likely to put more vehicles on the road and for longer periods of time. So phrased another way, motor vehicles, they're contributing to the decline of human and climate health. It's also important to recognize that climate change impacts, they're not equally felt across our society, across our communities. Climate change exponentially amplifies the risk of amplifies health risks faced by populations who are already compromised. Low-income individuals, unhoused people, youth, those with chronic illnesses, and Indigenous and Black populations. So having said that, this starts to now touch on bike lanes and health equity. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more deeply. Some of you have probably heard of that concept of induced demand. There's a phrase popularized by the movie Field of Dreams. It's going back a little bit. If you build it, they will come. Actually, the phrase was, if you build it, he will come. But I'm making a bit of a metaphor here, so go with me. If you build it, they will come. Research shows that's true for both bike lanes and roads. People feel safer in bike lanes, especially women, older adults, children, and people with disabilities. And sometimes a combination of the two. You see women pushing children, you see older adults pushing children. And City of Toronto statistics show installing bike lanes on 9 routes between 2014 and 2021, it boosted cycling ridership threefold. I was one of those who took to the streets when the bike lane network started growing in 2020, and I'm so much healthier for it. I was recently speaking to a friend about this presentation, and she shared about her brother who lives in the East End of Toronto with a disability. Having the safety of the bike lanes along Bloor Street the last several years has given him the courage to cycle. And if they're taken away, he says he's going to stop cycling. It means he's going to return to a more isolated existence for himself. Bike share programs have been game changers for that concept of induced demand. If you build it, they will come. Toronto Bike Share started in 2011, saw its ridership increase from 665,000 trips in 2015 to almost 7 million last year. There are now 9,000 more than 9,000 bikes and more than 800 docking stations across the city. And if you're joining from the York region, I know that unfortunately there is not a bike share program in York region at this time, but there's elements of things that are emerging, and that's a positive step. But the corollary to induced demand for bike lanes and safe cycling infrastructure is induced demand for roads. Research repeatedly shows more roads sell more cars. More roads induce more demand for roads and parking spaces. And this effect is likely more prominent on streets that are already congested. There's the economics of riding a bike. Bikes are more affordable than cars for most people. Cars are expensive, and increasingly so with current tariffs, and ownership's not achievable by all, especially those who are low income. There was some US research done a few years ago, and it found that Black households in poverty spend on average more than $1,100 more per car than their non-racialized peers. And this is because of higher insurance rates, higher gas rates where they live, and higher vehicle loans and leasing costs, or higher interest rates on loans and leasing costs. Wellesley Institute, we wrote a piece last year about postal code discrimination in the car insurance industry and in car insurance rates. And we found, and it was demonstrated, that there's disparate insurance rates for people who are low income, racialized, or newcomers in Canada. It's a persistent issue. There's some positive developments in Toronto. The city approved its cycling network plan last year. And I think some people are on this call from the city of Toronto, and I'm sure you know a lot more about this plan than I do, but that plan was approved last summer, and it aims to address some of the inequities in the current bike infrastructure in the city. It's giving priority to underserved neighborhoods in the north and the northeast, and these are lower income parts of the city. And it's filling gaps in current unconnected lanes. These are really good steps and in the right direction for access and therefore for health equity. On a related note, and this is a bit of a segue, but it speaks to the importance of car alternative transportation. The City of Toronto is working to bring dedicated transit lanes on some major streets, making it easier and faster for people living in less costly part of the city outside the downtown core to get into the core. Transit cutbacks that were made during the lockdown period, exacerbated some of the transportation issues in the city that we were already having. But many of these initiatives to bring in these dedicated transit lanes are facing opposition from car drivers and often from businesses who argue that their profitability is going to be hurt. I think what we have here is something that I call a business bias at play here. There was a 2017 study of Bloor Street businesses that was done that found that less than 10% of customers arrived by car for the businesses along sections of Bloor. The business owners themselves thought it was 25%. Merchants are about 5 times more likely to drive to work than their customers are. So maybe they're assuming that their customers do too. Oh, sorry. So in terms of bike lanes, there is no robust evidence anywhere that bike lanes decrease business traffic either. Back to the core and wrapping it up. I want to share a story that a colleague shared with me last week. And I think it's an excellent example of why bike lanes are a health equity issue. As a newcomer to Canada and not yet fully fluent in English, he knows he'll get the best healthcare from a provider who speaks his native language. The clinic that offers services in that language is a 20-minute drive away, but my colleague can't afford a car. However, he does have access to a bike, thanks to the Toronto Bike Share. And because the clinic can be accessed along protected lanes, he feels comfortable making the ride there. But part of his route is at risk of being removed by the province's Reducing Gridlock, Saving You Time Act. And this lack of safety, it's going to shake his confidence enough to take him off the bike and off the road. Public transportation for him means 2 different bus routes. It's going to take him more than an hour. An Uber is going to cost him at least $30. So the transit time or the car share price he has to pay means he'll have to make sacrifices in other areas of his well-being. And he's somebody who already experiences a lot of barriers accessing what he needs to thrive. In this community, in this city, the removal of the bike lanes is yet another stress for him. I introduced you today to a bit of the work of Wellesley Institute, talked a bit about bike lanes and health, bike lanes and health equity. There's many reasons to encourage bike lanes, and my goal has been to provide evidence to you that you might not have heard about, to encourage your own advocacy. My own story is one of those examples. A woman, a mature adult, who's healthier, less aches and pains. I'm thinner and I'm happier than I used to be, having made cycling a regular part of all aspects of my life. 11 months of the year. I only stop in January over the past 5 years. Bike lanes have been the game changer for me and for so many of the other people who I share the bike lanes with. Everyone should have the opportunity to reach their full potential. Bike lanes are healthy. Bike lanes promote health equity. Health should be a birthright for all and not a privilege for some. And for me personally, that's been worth advocating for. Thank you.
All right, so let's give a round of applause to Judy. Thank you so much, Judy. Yeah, now we'll just open up for, I guess, Q&As. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw in the chat or raise your hand so I can give you mic access. And in the meantime, while we're waiting, I'm going to launch our poll questions, our second set poll questions, just to get some feedback in terms of, what other topics do you want to learn? How did you feel about this webinar? All sorts of stuff. So get that going. And yeah, hopefully you folks have any questions or whatever not. Let's check the chat. Okay, I see Leanne's got her hand up, so I'm going to give you mic access. So.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. This was really interesting. What I'm wondering, if you have any thoughts on, I think probably the people who are into cycling enough to attend a Bike Month webinar understand the value of safe cycling infrastructure. But what can we do to help broaden that understanding, maybe to the people who are going, like, oh yeah, the bike lanes do increase my commute time. I think we should remove them. I think that's a great idea. Like, what can we do to bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think that I saw a question pop up at the same time, Leanne. I think that it's important for us to be personally involved in the organizations that are making this their mission to push this. So you'll see that in this presentation, I bridged the gap between what is Judy Noordemeer doing personally as a cycling aficionado with what does Judy Noordemeer know about health equity and bike lanes. And it's a bit of both for me personally. So you saw that last image, that's me at Queen's Park. I'm not there as Wellesley Institute, that's me as Judy Noordemeer there at a Cycling Toronto thing. I'm personally giving my financial support as well. I will, from the Wellesley Institute side of things, I will continue to be active where there is opportunity in a professional context to push the evidence and to push the evidence and to put out information about health and health equity. We're not an organization that's going to be, active on the front lines of this, but where it relates to what our issue, we will continue to be active.
Thanks. Let's see. So we have a question from Francesca. The question is, why are the bike lanes within provincial jurisdiction instead of municipal? Especially considering that the province is currently conservative and the municipality is more progressive, makes sense that they're differing opinions here. But the impacts of removing bike lanes is on residents of Toronto.
Yeah. So I'll give you so I'm a communications and partnerships, communications and marketing person by background, and I'm not a legal legislative expert, but I will explain it to you in as simple terms as I can with the language that I have. So all municipalities in Ontario, they exist at the pleasure of the province. So cities only exist because provincial legislature enables them to exist. So the city of Toronto, all cities have a right to manage their own cities, but the provincial government also has legal rights to impose legislation that controls what's happening in cities. So that's the dynamic that's happening here. City of Toronto has a plan, City of Toronto is implementing a plan, and other cities are as well. This is not just a Toronto thing. The legislation applies to all cities across the province, but then the province comes in, it has a different vision. It has that authority to impose different legislation. Now, this particular legislation is currently facing a charter challenge. And so that is why the bike lanes have not been ripped up yet. I'm not sorry, have not been removed yet. But there's a ruling pending on a charter challenge. But unless there is anybody who on this call who can be more articulate about the legal sides of that, that hopefully is enough clarity. Thanks, Francesca.
Okay. Another question from Erica. I don't know if this might be more of City Toronto team thing, but basically, so the bike lanes exist on Lower Danforth. And that's a really great one. But there are a lot of kind of risks involved in that area. And so to kind of summarize that question, basically it's how could the bike lanes on that area be improved so that cyclists feel safe on them? How do other places do better in tight spaces?
No, those are really great questions. And I have to say that in an earlier iteration of this presentation, I had a disclaimer at the front that said, I am not an expert on cycling lane infrastructure. So one thing I've not studied or looked at is how do you protect them in different intersections and with the variety of intersections? How do you make them most safe? I don't have that expertise. What I personally believe is that I think it's incumbent on all of us, whether you're driving a vehicle, whether you're cycling or you're walking, is to know what the rules of the road are and to follow the rules of the road. And there is a lot that can and should be done on all of our parts to make that better. But there's probably another expert that could talk to you more about design of bike lanes.
Was there any other questions anyone wanted to ask, or feel free to put your hands up too if you want to speak?
I saw that pop up. So again, I would say that's probably with another, as I understand it, that's the municipalities who make those decisions. I would really refer you to the cycling, the Toronto cycling plan. That's underway, and those would be city planning departments that make those decisions. And based on my experience, they are very well thought through, based on lots of traffic studies, based on surveys, based on community input and feedback, and well done. I saw, do I know why there's been such an increase in trucks on the road? I do not have an answer for that. Part of it would be part of it must be population growth. I don't have measures of, does that mean more, proportionally more goods moving? But it's about the movement of goods, trucks primarily. I don't know how many of those trucks, I don't have that data. I don't know how many of those trucks would be commercial trucks versus personal ownership of trucks. And yeah, sorry, not privy to that.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and close the polls here. So thank you to everyone who's provided their thoughts and any other topics you want to see us, any other webinar topics you want us to deliver next year. So thank you for that. If there are no other further questions, I guess we can go ahead and talk about next steps. So. All right, so basically just to recap, so thank you, Judy, so much for your presentation. And I hope everyone here learned a lot of great things from Judy. So in terms of next steps, June is still here. We're still in the thick of things. So all of these recordings that we've done throughout, we've had 7 webinars this month. So go ahead, go to sparkme.ca to look at all the different recordings from like bike lane stuff to bike maintenance. As a cyclist, what are the rules of the road and what are the best etiquettes to cycle? Lots of different topics where you might be interested in. So go ahead, check out our website. And of course, go to sparkme.ca and log your cycling trips for a chance to win a $50 gift card prize. So great incentive on top of all of the fun things that we do enjoy about cycling. You can go ahead and do that. So that's pretty much that. And as I promised, there will be a prize draw now for one lucky winner. So I've already prepared a lovely spin the wheel here. So if you were, I see a few familiar names from our past webinars. So if you've already won your $20 gift card prize, you're not allowed to win again. Upon my apologies for that, but that's just the rules. So this is just for the people that have not had a chance to win yet. So go ahead, spin the wheel. And our winner is Katie Clark. All right, congrats, Katie. You're the winner of the next $20 gift card prize. So I'll email you after this webinar, and you can pick your gift card. So that's there. And yes, so that's, yeah, thank you all so much for attending this webinar and have fun, stay safe. It's super hot out today, so stay hydrated, stay cool, and I hope to see you all in future webinars. Oh, Errol, no, okay. All right, perfect.